Welcome to Conversations with the Smith Family. I'm Doug Taylor, the CEO of the Smith Family, and through these conversations we look at work across Australia that's focused on giving all young people the opportunity to change their future through the power of education. Now, in Anti-Poverty Week, today I'm excited to be joined by James Manton, who is an alumni of our Learning for Life program. We supported him through his secondary education right through to his studies at university as well. Then after graduating with a Bachelor of Business, he's now working in the banking and finance sector, which is fantastic, and also finds time to give back through the Smith family through our iTrack mentoring program, which is a great program that helps young people navigate future working and learning opportunities with the support of an experienced mentor such as James. So in our last episode, I spoke with Carolyn McDade, who's the co-chair with me for the New South Wales Anti-Poverty Week campaign. And today we're putting a face to all those challenges that young people experience by talking to James. And he's very generously agreed to share a little bit about his experience, a bit about the support from the Smith family, and he's also got some insights into what we can do as a society. So welcome, James. Really appreciate you joining us on Conversations with the Smith family. As you know very well, we're an education children's charity, and when we have these conversations, we love to ask our guests what's their most memorable education moment. Now, you've had a great education and achieved so much, but can you kind of reduce it to one moment or one experience to express that for us?
Yeah, so I'd really just like to acknowledge my economics high school teacher, Miss Umbers from Tari High, because she really pushed on my behalf for a scholarship that I wasn't aware that even existed at the time. And honestly, the highlight for over my whole education is being at my high school graduation ceremony and not expecting to be up there on the board. You know, you have the ducks and you have the first in every class that, you know, goes up and gets her award. And I'm just sitting there, just probably chatting with a mate or being an idiot or something like that. And then on the screen comes up James Manton, Vice Chancellor's Award, UNE. And
wow.
That honestly was a life-changing event because it guaranteed me entry into any university, and just having that opportunity and knowing that there were people behind me supporting me that I wasn't even aware of at the time, it was a truly life-changing experience. And yeah, that was probably one of the happiest times I've ever been at school. So,
oh wow, what a moment! And I can well imagine, and no doubt off the back of lots of hard work and support, particularly I know from your mum as well. But it's often the case that we find that there's a teacher who kind of really steps out and backs you and gives you great confidence and does some of that connecting that you're talking about. Because, you know, often as a young person, you don't know how to navigate education systems. They're complex. And so having somebody help you chart that course makes a real difference. So that's a really powerful moment, James. Thank you. I know from team sharing a bit about your experience and reading a speech that you gave to one of our VIEW clubs, we've had a long relationship with you and your family, your mum, and also you've certainly had some challenges earlier in your life. Can you just share with us what you're comfortable in terms of what some of those challenges were, and then, you know, how that impacted your education early on?
Sure. So especially over primary school, between the ages of probably up until I was about 9 or 10 years old, we moved quite frequently between New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, just moving around a lot. That was very isolating because you don't really get to stay anywhere long enough to get to know anyone. You don't have any childhood friends, and you just get a real cognitive dissonance, especially as a child, about, you know, what's actually happening around you. Where am I? Why am I going to this school and I don't know anyone there? And you really don't feel connected to, I guess, the people or community that surrounds you. So each time we'd move, be progressively more difficult to fit in at each school. And you'd be there constantly not knowing who anyone is, and then they don't know you either. So everyone's seen the Smith family ad where there's the kid eating lunch alone. Well, it was a reality for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other kids too that go through similar circumstances.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, James. And it's often the case when we talk to families, and particularly at the moment with cost of living pressures, families often say that with rising rent, they have to move around more to find cheaper accommodation. And that is very disruptive, particularly for young people, as you've said, and it gets harder to fit in and feel part of a school community. You've also shared that being in a family that was on a low income meant that at times early on you weren't able to afford some things perhaps like your peers, and that had kind of, an ostracizing impact as well as not being able to do some of those things. Can you share us a bit about that experience?
Yeah, I mean it's basic stuff, and it's honestly a cliche, like not having the backpack or the shoes or a pencil case or books to do your schoolwork in. Yeah, you feel like another in your school community, and it's hard to reflect on it now, being an adult and looking back to being 10 years old or younger. Yeah, there's always those core memories there of just feeling like you don't have the same just things as everyone else to do the work, and yeah, you're different because there's an intrinsic understanding that if you're poor, you kind of need to be the hardest worker in the room to just have the same opportunities as everyone else. But how can you do that? How can you be the hardest worker if you don't even have the tools to work, let alone excel at anything?
Yeah, look, it's very powerful to you sharing that with us. And you're right, it is though, it's those basic things, isn't it, that are so solvable in terms of having a school uniform, resources to fund that, being able to go on excursions, funding those things.
Yep.
Is not insurmountable, but so important for a young person to feel like they're a part of a school community. Because what we see, if young people don't have those things, if you don't feel part of a school community, it can affect your school attendance. That can affect your achievement and therefore your school completion. So it's really important. And clearly, in your circumstances, the Smith family was able to develop a relationship with you and your mum and provide some of those supports. Can you tell us a bit about what those supports were, and then how that started to create some benefits for you and your family over time?
It was life-changing as a kid, The biggest one would probably be in year six, where I was able to go to the year six camp. And, it sounds like a small thing, but, my mum wasn't working at the time. I kept coming home and talking about it and saying, I really want to go. And basically, if the Smith family wasn't there, it wouldn't have been an option. I wouldn't have been able to attend. And again, on top of all those other basic things, yeah, the Smith family changed my life as a child because, it meant that I was able to, actually turn up to school and have the materials I needed to do the work. And, at that most basic level, you're able to fit in with everyone else and do what everyone else is doing, and when you're a kid, you're probably not too focused on or studious on the schoolwork, but it's more the socialization, If you literally don't have the tools to do what everyone else is doing, then because I had a bag and it had like one strap on it, and I had holes in my shoes. My mum used to shave my head because we couldn't afford to go get haircuts. Like, just really, hard times. And yeah, it weighs on you, and the support and materials that the Smith family provided, as I said, were just life changing.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that with us, James. It's they're kind of powerful memories, and they're shaping, aren't they, for a young person? But it's been obviously a privilege to support you 3-year education into university, and now moving on to further studies for yourself and working in the banking and finance sector, which is just fantastic. One dimension to how people often have really challenging experiences with their education is around digital access. So one of the things that we're talking about in Anti-Poverty Week is digital poverty. And if we just take a sample of our students that we support at the Smith family, 67,000 students, 30% of those young people go home every night to a household where there's not a digitally connected laptop.
Yep.
Now, you've kind of gone through your education at a point where that's now an essential tool of trade of an education. Can you tell us about your experience with that?
Yeah, sure. So I was actually quite lucky in the fact that I finished high school before COVID happened.
Yeah.
So being in a public school, I guess there wasn't at that time the expectation that, we had our own laptop and stuff like that. But I'll tell you one experience that was absolutely shaping. Going back to my economics class that, Miss Umbers was an amazing teacher in. We got to go to an economics forum in Sydney where I think over 100 classes from different schools were able to attend, and there probably would have been over 1,000 people in this lecture hall, like all students from different schools and things like that. But what shocked me the most was that out of all the classes, we were probably one of the only ones wearing public school uniforms. So we had, our white polos or yellow polos on, and B, we didn't have laptops to take our notes on. And every other person in the room almost had an electronic device that they were writing on, and we had our books and pens, and this is like back in 2017. So, even back then, this shift was happening. It's just we weren't aware of it because it was a different environment.
Yeah, that's a very stark picture of going to that economics lecture and seeing other students and the resources they have. And obviously, we all want to kind of level out the experience as best we can and ensure that if a young person works hard and has that capability, then they're not held back. And increasingly in workplaces, obviously, digital skills are really important. I mean, you'd see that in the banking environment in which you're working. So, if you're not having experience of that through schooling years now and at home using the sort of applications you're going to be using in the workplace, it really can be a massive barrier. James, I'm wondering what message you might have for people listening as to how, as a community and as a society, we can support young people more effectively so they can, really reach their potential, just given your experience.
It's really sad, actually, because it's something that, poverty seems to be something that's been accepted by society as normal, that it can't happen to certain people or their families. And the community attitudes towards youth issues, in my experience, have been overwhelmingly negative, which is a real shame because, if you think about your support networks growing up, so your parents, siblings, extended family, friends, sporting coaches, if you think about what opportunities that you would have had to achieve the things that you have in your life, if you only had one parent and they weren't gainfully employed, or if you were a child of the state, or your older siblings or extended family, they were locked up, or you never met lifelong friends or connections through sport or community activities because you've never had enough money to be able to do those things. Imagine how your life would have turned out if you grew up living in a tent or a car, and just trying to relate to people in the community whose lives around you are infinitely better than your own. The way we can start to do better and be better is just not to punch down on, these Aussie kids because of their social class. And we need to start to try and lift young people up and give them opportunities to show us what they're capable of, rather than write them off before their lives even begin.
Yeah.
Think of if this was me or my family, because we've been shown it can happen to working families. Just look at the news, the working poor. All it takes is one accident or a mistake, or just simply the circumstances that are out of your control. If we refuse to eradicate poverty, it could very well be you or your kids or your kids' kids living in that tent or sleeping in that car.
You've said it really powerfully, James, in kind of articulating that kind of experience. But I think what's implicit in that's really powerful for me is just the inherent potential of all young people, and you're a great exemplar of that, and what young people can do when they've got the right supports, and we kind of remove those barriers that are inherently solvable. They're things that we can actually address with the means and with the resolve to do so. So that's a really powerful message. Thank you for sharing that, James. James, as well as kind of having a great insight and really articulating in a really kind of powerful way your experience and what we need to do as a society, you take action. So you've been a volunteer with the Smith family as well. Through our iTrack program, which is an online mentoring program. I've done that myself, and it's been a really interesting experience. I found it very challenging, chat-based conversations for like an hour for many weeks.
Yeah.
It was, a bit of a challenge for me, but I'm sure you were much more equipped. Tell us a bit about your kind of experience with that and why you did that.
I've been volunteering with you guys for a while doing, speaking and things like that, but I just felt like I needed to make a direct a positive impact on someone else. And it was a really positive experience because I was able to really understand what, this young person's ambitions and motivations are to, provide for himself and his family and what interests he has. I think he wants to be a carpenter and he's very, very work oriented. And, learning a little bit about his background and life and things like that. I think it's important for people who aren't in those situations anymore or are maybe better off or more privileged to be able to show that these young people can actually achieve the things that they dream about. And it's not crazy wealth or anything like that. It's literally just having a stable job or income and being able to support their family to do the things that they want to be able to do in life. He mentioned one of his things was he wanted to go on a holiday because he'd never been on a holiday before, and that resonates quite a lot with me. But it's quite a thing to be able to work on goal setting with him. Okay, so you're going to get a job, and then you might do an apprenticeship, and then you'll work, and then eventually you'll be able to have those things. And just helping him work out what steps need to take place in order for you to get your life basically in a good place. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. I mean, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's all about kind of helping young people. Well, all young people have aspiration and goals. There's no shortage of those, but kind of breaking it down into the steps to kind of realize that and it is about having an adult who can help do that based on their own experience. So just building on that, James, and kind of drawing things to a close, I'm wondering what message you would have for young people. We support 67,000 young people through Learning for Life now, and many of them would have a similar kind of life experience as you do. What message of kind of hope would you have for those young people?
I just say investing in yourself, in your education, is worth your time and effort. Nobody can take your skills or your knowledge away from you. So you just need to persevere and set goals to achieve those aspirations. And whether that means doing an apprenticeship or tertiary study or achieving higher education, it gives you the power to take control of who you are and change the circumstances that may define you. In short, keep going, and it'll end, and you can do it.
Yeah, fantastic, James. Thank you. Look, thanks so much for your time today and sharing a bit about your experiences. It's so helpful, particularly in Anti-Poverty Week, to help the Australian community really understand what those experiences are, the very real challenges that are kind of inherent to those experiences for young people, but also some of the very practical things we can do to support them to create a great future. So thanks for joining us on Conversations with the Smith Family and Anti-Poverty Week, James. All the best for your future working career, and sounds like you're getting some great work experience and building a terrific future.
Thanks, Doug. It was a pleasure to be here.
And thank you for joining us in Conversations with the Smith Family today. If you'd like to know more about the work of the Smith Family, jump on to thesmithfamily.com.au. Thanks very much.